All right. Um, Welcome to the Cyber Safe House and welcome to the Introduction to Cybersecurity course. So today we're going to be going through the Introduction to Cybersecurity course using the Cisco Introductory course to Cybersecurity. Um, I'm just gonna explain a little bit in this video, and I'm going to show you what we're going to be looking at. Looking at the world of cybersecurity, the organizational data, what was taken. That's looking at a practical lab on attack scenarios. Look at cyber attackers. We're going to understand who cyber attackers are and what they actually want. Because one thing to be an attacker and another thing to attack. So before you carry out an attack, there's always a reason. So also going to look at cyber warfare. We're going to explain what nations, what governments do to themselves, maybe a country against another country that cause some kind of war in the cyberspace. Right. So let's just jump right into it. The world of cybersecurity. What is cybersecurity? Now, cybersecurity is just the protection of individuals, organization, and governments from digital attacks. So what we are protecting is digital, and to an extent, we are also protecting something physical, right? Because our digital life is connected to our physical life. But on a personal level, you need to safeguard your identity, you need to safeguard your computer, you need to safeguard your data. You can't just allow your data flying around. So as we dive deeper, you're going to understand what your online identity is, right? So as an organization or at the organizational level, it's important for organizations to protect their assets, their reputation, their data, and that of their customers. Then when it comes to the government, it's even broader. Um, Information, the government has information about all its citizens. So that's where um, more information can even be gotten, more data can be gotten, even from the personal level up to the governmental level. So where national security is of concern, economic stability, and the well-being of citizens are a very huge concern when it comes to protecting the government or protecting data with the government. So when it comes to protecting your personal data, like I said, there's something called your online identity. Many people don't know that they have an online identity. They feel maybe because I'm not in social media, I don't have an online identity. So there's an offline identity, which is your real and your personal life, your life in school, your life at work, your life in whichever environment you find yourself, maybe an airport, all right, you have a physical identity, right? Before you get passed through an international airport, you'll be required to um, have a visa, which is more like an approval, and that approval is done on your national ID, all right? And your national ID has your information such as your full name, your age, your address. So all this information make up your offline identity. Then your online identity is your presence online, all right? Your identity in the digital space. So whenever you open up a search engine, whenever you open up your device or use your device to access the internet, you are being identified. All right. So you have an IP address. We're going to dive deeper into that when you go through the networking part of cybersecurity. So you have your MAC address. So every device has a MAC address, which is actually like the physical address of a person. And your online identity can also be your username, your online account. If you're on Facebook, if you're on IG, you have a username that you would usually tell people to follow. So you should also take care of the limits and limit the amount of information of that you review online. You should always take care to limit the amount of information that you review on your online social media accounts. All right, be careful not to always include things like your physical address, right? and things like your personal information, like your bank or your card information. And be careful not to always sell everything that you have physically online because hackers are watching. Tell you. Then, when it comes to your personal data, we can break this down into different levels or different areas, right? Because cyber criminals use this information to identify or impersonate you. So when a cyber criminal has every of your data, it can impersonate you. It can use your identity to carry out an illegal activity, and you'll be held responsible for it because it is you that would be seen, not the attacker. So hacker can get hands on your personal data through your medical records, your educational records, and your employment and financial record. Medical record is what your hospitals have, or your HMOs if you have them. Um, at every point you see a doctor, your record is being updated. At every point you um, go to the hospital for medical advice or for um, complaints, all right, for consultancy, your record is always updated. Then your education record contains every information about your academic qualifications, achievements, and activities. All right. It can also include your contact information. It can also include your attendance record, your disciplinary reports, your health record, as well as your special education record. And your employment and financial record can give attackers information about your financial status. All right. So if a hacker gets his hands on your financial record, he can determine or predetermine the when you have money, when you don't have money. All right. When money is being transferred to your accounts, you can have your tax record, which may include your paychecks, credit card statements, your card rating, your bank account details, all right, your credit rating rather. And when attackers have this information and they have your personal data, they could impersonate you and obtain a loan in your identity. See why you need to protect your personal data. But now, we're speaking data. Where exactly is your data? So imagine that yesterday you shared a couple of photos to your of your first day at your new job with a couple of friends. Now, before you took that photo, or when you took that photo, you were the only person that had that photo, but now you've um, sent copies to friends, which is now available on your mobile device and the mobile device of your friends. Let's assume there were five friends. So now these five friends, they live in various locations across the world. Now all your five friends downloaded the copy of photo which you sent them, and one of your friends was so proud of you and they decided to post and share that particular photo of your achievements online, maybe on Facebook or on Instagram. Now that particular image is no longer just with you, it's no longer just in your device, it has spread around the world because it has been dropped on the internet. All right, many people or many or a million others now have access to that particular image. They now have access to your photo. They now know how you look like. So hackers now see you online and they can take advantage of your online identity. They just need to search further and dig deeper to get more information about you, information about your um, health or financial record, carry out a um, specific or strategic attack. But what's more, um, that's just one example. That's just one example. So there are different laws that protect your privacy and data in your country. But when you're signing up for social media, do you actually read the terms and condition, terms of service, or you just scroll past everything and um, click on I agree, I agree. I know nobody likes to read. Everybody just likes to tick the checkbox immediately. So, but do you know where your data is? So, following the appointment with your doctor, right? Your medical record is always being updated. So for billing purposes, this information may be shared with your insurance company, it may be shared with your HMO, right? And in such cases, your medical record or part of it is now accessible by your insurance company, right? Another example is your store loyalty card, which may be a convenient way for you to save money or save money on your purchase. But this loyalty card may store or build a profile on you concerning your purchasing behavior, what you like to buy, how often you buy stuff. Now, this information or this data can be shared with marketers or marketing partners to um, customize ads for you. All right. Have you ever been online and or you find out that something you like was popping up as an ad to you? Now, that's just a typical example because your data has been shared with marketers, so they are now targeting you for a particular um your information is now in a particular pool of data for market purposes or marketing purposes, right? Let's look at smart devices. Consider how long or how often you use your smart devices, your phone, your laptop, right? Your tablet, your smart glasses, your smart refrigerator, and all that. So unless you have chosen to receive paper statements, you probably access digital copies of your bank statements via your bank website or via your bank's mobile app. And when paying a bill, it is highly likely that you transfer required funds via your mobile banking applications. But besides allowing you to access your information, computer devices can now also generate information about you. Your wearables, such as your smartwatches, your activity tracker, collects your data, all right, for clinical research. All right. You also have patient health monitors. Remember, you have fitness applications that you can connect to your smartwatches. Now, this smartwatch actually shares data with those fitness applications for checking your or tracking your well-being. Now, that is your data going into a third party already. It's not just yours. Then, as the global tracker market grows, so also does the risk of your personal data grow too. Let's look at identity theft, not content with stealing your money for short-term financial gain, right? So, cyber criminals don't just want your data or your money for just a period of time. They are looking for long-term gain, right, from you. So once they have your data, they just don't want to gain once and let you go. They want to just keep gaining. All right. There's also medical theft, right? Raising medical costs has led to an increase in medical identity theft, with cyber criminals stealing medical insurance as to use the benefits for themselves. So when they know that you have medical insurance attached to your profile. So they might steal your identity and use your identity to have access or privileged access to what you have privileged access to. All right. So when this happens, any medical procedure carried out in your name will then be saved in your medical record. So imagine you have a HMO which covers some setting up some operations that are costly. Then a cyber attacker uses your information because he knows you do not imagine you don't actually have need for that particular surgery, but they know someone that is in need, or maybe someone close to them is in need of that particular surgery. They now steal your identity and use it as a means to subsidize the cost of that surgery for their close friend. Then in the banking industry, stealing private data can help cyber criminals access bank accounts, credit cards, social profiles, and other online accounts. So armed with this information, an identity theft could file a fake tax return and collect the refund. And they could even take out loans in your name and ruin your credit rating. And this can also ruin your life as well. But who else wants your data? It's not just cyber criminals who seek your personal data. Other people seek your personal data. People like your internet service providers, your advertisers, search engines, and social media platforms and websites you visit. Let's look at the internet service provider, which can be also be called the ISP. The ISP track your online activity in some countries. They can sell this data to advertisers for profits. In certain circumstances, ISPs may be legally required to share your information with government surveillance agencies or authorities. Then for advertisers, targeting advertising is part of the internet experience. Remember I gave the previous example, right? Um, have you ever noticed that posts you like on Facebook or IG, right, would always cause similar posts to reappear on your feed? That's the same way advertising work. So when these advertisers get your data, get your spending habits, all right, they know that, oh, he loves to buy chocolates. Then there's now they've gotten a new brand or a new brand of chocolates, all right, and they've created an ad. They are going to target that ad to you because they know that buying chocolate is part of your spending habits. But how did they get the information? From um third parties, all right, or from the stores that you have loyalty cards with. Then on the search engine platforms or social media platforms, they gather information about your gender, your geolocation, your phone number, and political and religious ideologies based on your search history and online identity. So this information can also be sold to advertisers for profit. Then for the websites you use, sometimes um, these websites use cookies to track your activity and provide more specialized experience. But this cookie data leaves trails that are linked to your online identity and can often end up in the hands of advertisers. No wonder you see all the ads you see. Types of organization now data. You have traditional data. So traditional data is typically generated and maintained by all organizations, big and small. This traditional data could include the transactional data, which has to do with the buying and selling of products, right, production activities, and basic organizational operations, such as any information used to make employment decisions. There's also intellectual property. This intellectual property are your patents, the organization patents, trademarks, and new product plans. So they allow the organizations to gain economic advantage over their competitors. So this information is often considered a trade secret, and losing it could prove disastrous for the future of a company. There's also financial data, so such as income statements, balance sheet, and cash flow statements. These provide insights to the health of an organization. There's also data that comes or is being generated by IoT devices. So there's IoT devices and big data. IoT is a large network of physical objects such as sensors, software, and other equipment. And these equipment are found in almost every organization, from the door sensors to the um, NFC sensors, NFC devices to ID cards, and so on. So there are just a lot of IoT devices that make up this big data. So all of these things are connected to the internet and they have the ability to collect and share data. So storage options are expanding through the cloud and virtualization. Remember your cloud providers like AWS and Microsoft Azure. So the emergence of IoT has led to exponential growth in data, creating a new area of interest in technology and businesses called big data. Let's look at the cube. The cube is actually a security model, all right? And this model has three dimensions. which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So confidentiality has to do with a set of rules that prevent sensitive information from being closed to unauthorized people, resources, and processes. And some methods to ensure the confidentiality of data has to do with data encryption, identity proofing, and two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. Then for integrity, the integrity part of dimension of this cybersecurity cube ensures that systems informations are processed are and processes are protected from intentional or accidental modification. So one way to um, do this is by using hash functions or checksum. So it's a way to make sure that while data is being transmitted from one point to another, the data stays the same and is not altered or changed by an unauthorized party. And lastly, the last dimension of this queue is availability. This means that authorized users are able to access systems and data when and where needed, and those that do not meet established conditions are not. This can be achieved by maintaining equipment, performing hardware repairs, keeping operating systems and software up to date, and creating data. You know, the best companies have an availability of about 99.999% every year, the five nines. Protecting information in each of its possible states. Now, what are these states? These states of data, right, or of information that are being used or being stored or being transitioned. So data can be in a state of processing, which is when the data is being used, all right? That's when the data is being updated. That's means the data is in process. And also the next state is storage. So this is when data is at rest. All right. So the data is stored in a memory or a permanent storage devices. This can be your solid state drives or your USB flash drives, right, or your CD drives and the rest. Then the last state of data is transmission. All right, so data can be transmitted from one point to another. So while the data is moving from point A to point B, traveling between those two systems, it means that the data is in transit. The security methods used to protect data. The first one and the most important is awareness, training, and education, which is actually what we are doing at the Cyber Safe House. So awareness put in place by an organization to ensure that the users are knowledgeable about potential security threats and the actions they can take to protect information systems. So this training educates every system. You know what attackers do when they want to attack an organization? They go for the weakest link. Now, the principle of the weakest link has to do with um, targeting the weakest person or the less informed person in an organization. So that's why organizations carry out phishing exercises. They share random phishing mails to a particular set of individuals within an organization just to check if they are a weak link within the organization. And if anyone falls for such exercises or fails such phishing exercises, they are being taken through a a program or a training, all right, just to make sure that they are well acquainted with the new cybersecurity or the new trends in cyber threats. Another security measure is technology. So technology refers to the software and hardware-based solution designed to protect information, such as firewalls, all right, which continuously monitor your network in search of possible malicious incidents. There are also anti-malware softwares. And the last but not the least measure here is policy and procedure. So this refers to the administrative control that provide a foundation for how an organization implements information assurance, such as incident response plans and best practice guidelines. So they use a principle of least privilege access. So if you are not privileged to perform or carry out a specific task, you would not be able to carry out those tasks. Is this for real? This is very common and often works, right? You might have fallen for a phishing mail before individually and you're not even aware of it. But after this course, you understand what phishing mails are. For example, in August 2020, Elite gaming brand Razer did, if you know Razer, they are one of the guys that produce these graphic components in computer systems. So they experienced a data breach which exposed the personal information of approximately 100,000 customers. So you can see what attackers are doing. So imagine they have the data of 100,000 customers. How many identities can they take? So a security consultant discovered that a cloud cluster, a group of linked servers providing data storage, database networking, and software through the internet, was misconfigured and exposed the segment of Razor's infrastructure to the public internet, resulting to resulting in the data link. It took Razer more than 3 weeks to secure the cloud instance from public access, during which time cyber criminals had access to customer information that could have been used in social engineering and fraud attacks. Imagine having access to over 100 customers and you send a phishing mail to 100,000 customers. And that's you have a 10% chance of getting at least 1,000 people to fall for your phishing mail. So organizations therefore need to take a proactive approach to cloud security to ensure that sensitive data is secured. So data security breaches are becoming very common and the implications are severe. The IoT is connecting more and more devices, creating more opportunities for cyber criminals to attack. I used to say this that um, the more technology we have, or the speed at which technology is um, evolving, is the speed at which vulnerability is expanding. So, two well-known data security breaches include the, the Perseri botnet. So, in 2017, an IoT botnet, Perseri, targeted over 1,000 different models of IP cameras, accessing open ports to inject a command that forced the cameras to connect to a site which installed malware on them. Once the malware was downloaded and executed, it deleted itself and was therefore able to run in memory to avoid detection. So over 122,000 of these cameras from several different manufacturers were hijacked and used to carry out DDoS attacks, that's distributed denial of service, without the knowledge of their owners. So a DDoS attack occurs when multiple devices infected with malware flood the resources of a targeted system, which means this can lead to failures, right? Or breakdown or shutdown of those systems. Another example of a security breach is the Equifax Incorporation. So in 2017 September, Equifax, a customer credit reporting agency in the US, publicly announced a data breach event. Attackers had been able to exploit a vulnerability in its web application software to gain access to the sensitive personal data of millions cus- of customers. Wow, that's a lot. In response to this breach, Equifax established a dedicated website that allowed Equifax customers to determine if their information was compromised. However, instead of using a subdomain of Equifax.com, the company set up a new domain name which allowed cybercriminals to create unauthorized websites with similar names. These websites are used to try and trick customers into providing personal information. So attackers could use this information to assume a customer's identity. In such cases, it will be very difficult for the customer to prove otherwise, given that the hacker is also privy to their personal information. Let's look at the consequences of data breaches, especially to organizations. First one is reputational damage. The security breach can have negative long-term impact on an organization's reputation. and it has taken years to build. That's imagine someone like Google, an organization like Google, have a data breach where is millions of customers or millions of customers' information are being exposed or are available for threat hunters. That's it's going to be a huge flaw, and Google will no longer be trusted, and that will be an advantage that um, companies like Microsoft will have and jump into the market and become the monopoly. So customers, particularly those who have been adversely affected by breach, will need to be notified and may seek compensation and or turn to a reliable and secure competitor. What I just said. So employees may also choose to leave in light of a scandal, depending on the severity of the breach. It can take a long time to repair an organization's reputation. The second consequence could be vandalism. So a hacker or hijacking group may vandalize an organization's website by posting untrue information. They might even just make a few minor edits to your organization's phone number or addresses, which can be trickier to detect. In either case, online vandalism can portray unprofessionalism and have a negative impact on your organization's reputation and credibility. Another consequence can be theft. So a data breach often involves an incident where sensitive personal data has been stolen. Cybercriminals can make this information public or exploit it to steal an individual's money or identity. Another consequence of data breaches could be loss of revenue. So a financial impact of a security breach can be devastating. So for example, hackers can take down an organization's website, preventing it from doing business online. So imagine um, companies like PayPal, right, are being pulled down or are being or get attacked by these threat hunters, and we can no longer use them online for a period of 1 week. That's a lot of money that has been lost. Another consequence is damage intellectual property. So a security breach can also have a devastating impact on competitiveness of an organization, particularly if hackers are able to get their hands on confidential documents, trade secrets, and intellectual property. Now let's look at this. What was taken? This is a scenario, right? So let's understand this scenario. Security breaches today are very common, with attackers constantly finding new and innovative ways of infiltrating organizations in search of valuable information. Now, let's go down into this scenario. So, according to our source, a well known hotel chain that operates across the world has reported a massive data breach with the personal information of over 3 million guests exposed to hackers. The hotel discovered that hijackers or hackers gained access to its customers' database by using the login details of one of its employees. So at this point, the hotel doesn't believe that the hackers were able to access any account password or financial information. Recent guests are encouraged to check the hotel's chain's web portal to see if they have been impacted by this breach. So there in the first example, you can see that people's or customer informations were stolen because of the data breach that happened in the hotel. Another scenario says that the team at Apollo is actually a company, is concerned because e-learning platforms are becoming prime targets for attackers as more and more organizations make the move to digital learning. A popular online training platform admitted leaving the personal data of millions of its students exposed on publicly accessible cloud database. Hackers were able to directly access students' full names, email addresses, phone numbers, and school enrollment details from the internet. While it's unclear what the hackers have done with this acquainted information, it is safe to say that they have everything they need to carry out a widespread phishing or malware attack. So imagine having millions of user's email. That's wild. That's a huge pool to carry out a attack. Then let's look at what we are able to take away from this lesson. So a security breach is an incident that results in unauthorized access to data, applications, services, or devices, exposing private information that attackers can use for financial gain or other advantages. There are many ways to protect yourself and your organization. It's important to be aware of common cyber attacks and remain vigilant so that you don't become the next victim. Next, let's look at cyber attackers. There are different types of attackers. Some cyber attackers can range from amateur to organized, right? And they will try anything in their hands to get people's personal information. And they are often categorized as white, gray, or black hat hackers. Let's look at the amateurs, for example, or starting from the list. The term script kiddies emerged in 1990s and refers to amateur or inexperienced hackers who use existing tools or instructions found on the internet to launch attacks. So some of these script kiddies are just curious. They're just it could be students like you who are new to the cybersecurity world who just go and search on the internet how to hack Wi-Fi passwords, and then they see YouTube videos on how to carry out or hack a Wi-Fi password, and they carry out this attack by themselves using the scripts they find online. So it could just be curiosity, it could just be them trying to demonstrate their skills, and they may cause a huge harm. So while these white hat attackers may use basic tools, their attack can still be devastating. So let's look at hackers now generally. So this group of attackers break into computer systems or network to gain access. Depending on the intent of the break-in, they can be classified into white hat hackers, gray hat hackers, and black hat hackers. So white hat hackers, these are the good guys, right? So they break into networks or computer systems to identify weaknesses so that security of the system or network can be improved. So these break-ins or this attacking are done with permission from the owner or the organization. So they can call them ethical hackers, right? So white hat hackers can be called ethical hackers. We also have gray hat hackers. So these ones they may just decide to explore an organization, find out the vulnerabilities that the organization have. So they will not only report their findings to the owners of a system if doing so coincides with their agenda. So they might even publish details about the vulnerability on the internet so that other attackers can exploit it. They can also even sell that information to attackers. Lastly, black hat hackers. So this one they take advantage of any vulnerability they can find for a legal, personal, and financial gain, or even political gain. And lastly, I talked about organized hackers as the highest. So these are a group of cyber criminals. They are a group of activists, they are a group of terrorists, and they are a group of state-sponsored hackers. So they are usually sophisticated and organized and may even provide cybercrime as services to other criminals. Now, activists make political statements to create awareness about issues that are important to them, just so that they can propagate their own ideas or agenda. Then, state-sponsored attackers they get intelligence or commit sabotage on behalf of their government. So they are usually highly trained and well funded, and their attacks are focused on specific goals that are beneficial to their government. Cyber attackers can originate from within or outside the organization. So this is speaking of the internal or external threats. So when a threat is internal, it means that a company's employee or contract staff or trusted partner can has accidentally or intentionally done what mishandled confidential information or facilitate outside attacks by connecting infected USB media to organization system. They've invited malware into the organization's network by clicking on malicious links, phishing mails, and or they have threatened the operations of internal services or servers or network infrastructure devices. Now, when a threat is external, this could be amateurs or skilled attackers outside the organization. So they just try to um, exploit vulnerabilities that they find in the network, gain unauthorized access to computing devices, and or use social engineering to gain unauthorized access to organizational data. The cyber warfare. One example of this cyber warfare or state-sponsored attack is this Stuxnet. So this Stuxnet was a sponsored attack that involved the Stuxnet malware, and it was designed not just to hijack targeted computers, but also cause physical damage to equipment controlled by those computers. If you go through the course, you're going to watch a short video that explained how this Stuxnet um, was carried out and how it was discovered and the impact the malware had on the Iran's nuclear plant enrichment. So it was targeted to Iran. Or so the purpose of cyber warfare is majorly gain advantage over adversaries, whether they are nations or competitors. So I'm telling you that um, companies fight against companies in the cyberspace. You may not be aware of it. You may not be aware of it. All right. So cyber warfare is used in the following ways, which is one of them is to gather compromised information or defense secrets. So a nation or international organization can engage in cyber warfare to steal defense secrets and gather information about technology that will help narrow the gaps in its industries and military capabilities. Furthermore, compromised sensitive data can give attackers leverage to blackmail personnel within a foreign government. Another reason or another purpose of cyber warfare is to impact another nation's infrastructure. So, besides industrial and military espionage, a nation can continuously invade another nation's infrastructure to cause disruption and chaos. So, for example, a cyber attack could shut down the power grid of a major city, right? Another thing to consider is the consequences if it were to happen. Roads would be congested and the exchange of goods and services would be halted. So patients would not be able to get the care they would need if an emergency occurred. Access to internet would be interrupted. So by shutting down a power grid, a cyber attack could have a huge impact on the everyday life of ordinary citizens. So lastly, you're going to see a quiz. All right, at the end of the course, do well to take those quizzes and do well to read, subscribe to this channel and get more information in the link from the link description or go to the descriptions to see links to other videos and get a link to our community. Thank you.